honestly, these drivers might not be good on softs, because it is very wet around there. You can just see how much CGM is sliding. It's almost Tokyo Drift around here. Look at that. And you can just see the Sauber behind them as well. How are they supposed to complete a lap on softs like this? This is so hard. They're literally drifting around this track. This must be horrid for them. And up to the line. Where is Ivy going to place that Alpine? Up to the line. And it is going to be a 20.7, as I think we did see a Haas in the wall there. And I think that is more leader into the wall. And I don't think he has an end plate damage, but he has invalidated this lap, and he won't get a lap in as Callum, 22.1, he can't beat it, but White Josh goes into provisional pole with a 19.8. The track is getting quicker, and now it's time to see if any of these other drivers can beat that. Obviously, Callum not improving, but let's see if one of these Red Bulls can take it. Bubbly, who did have the original provisional pole, Ivy actually goes up to P3. Can Bubbly take provisional pole off White Josh? Coming up to the line. What is this going to be for the Red Bull? Can he get it? Yes, he can. Can anyone else beat it? I'm looking at Brian Evans potentially. Can Deck get it though? Coming up to the line. Yes, he can. 19.5. And these fastest laps are just coming. Raven has not been able to keep his lap valid. Jaipo Jippy though over the curbs. He also invalidates through the final few corners. Can CGM do anything as he comes up to the line? He's also invalid as well. Can Alex do anything? He's currently improving by 8 tenths. He's also invalid. THALO though coming up to the line. Can the Sauber do anything? Up to the line, and yes he can. 19.2. Can the other McLaren get it? Yes he can. Bath Destroyer 18.9, the first driver into the 18s, but Brian Evans not able to take it. I think he actually invalidated his lap, and that is qualifying over. A very dramatic end to that qualifying session. Here we go, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And the lights are out, and away we go. And I do think the McLaren did get a better start as we go down into turn 1. A little bit of desync as we have Deck down the inside of the Sauber. We'll have the outside for turn 2. The Sauber still holds it down the inside. Can Brian Evans do anything? Bubbly, sorry. Can he do anything coming in on this? And the McLaren and the Sauber still going side by side into the first chicane as they navigate that very nicely. But the Sauber just comes out on top. Looking further down the grid, we have an Aston Martin being overtaken by a Haas. More leader will go around the outside of the Aston Martin going into turn 6 and 7. Can Haas hold that down the inside of turn 7? A little bit of slippery there from the Aston Martin, but the Aston Martin stays in front. Can Brian Evans do anything? Round the outside, he will try of the Haas going into the next chicane, but he holds back. The Haas goes a little bit deep though. Will that allow Brian Evans to go around the outside, as Brian Evans has actually dropped down here, as I think he did qualify near the top half, but he has dropped down. Brian Evans round the outside of Morleader into the hairpin. Can he get that just based on pure traction, as I think Raven and Ivy had a bit of a scrap there as well, a bit further up the field, as I think they are about to go side by side again into the chicane. As Raven backs out, Ivy will get the place, and I think Morleader and Brian Evans still going side by side, and Brian Evans didn't get the better exit there. Raven's still trying down the inside of Ivy and gets that move down the main straight. And can THALO get the move here going into turn 13 and 14, as it's not really a question really. THALO already up into the lead. Can Jaipo do anything on the Alpine? No, he can't. Further down the order, no other moves being made. Saban has actually dropped by 1.3 seconds here to Brian Evans, as Deck and Bath Destroyer now actually having a swap there, and Bubbly goes down the inside, hits the McLaren. The McLaren somehow is still facing the right way, as there's even more contact. Bubbly will get that move, and that will probably be a penalty for Bubbly, and the McLaren drops 1 and 2 other places with that. And Alex going side by side with Jaipo Jippy, and Jaipo gets that move. Ivy now going down the inside of the Haas. Can he get that move going into turns 5 and 6? No, he can't, but I'll tell you what, Callum is trying to make a move on Callum. Wait, Glass, sorry, making a move on Callum, and he doesn't get that. And Morleader actually gets advanced from that, as Glass drops down another position as well. Not really too sure who it was. I think it might actually be Bath Destroyer. Can Raven send one down the inside of the V-carb? Yes, he does. A little bit of contact, but the V-carb goes wide. Even more contact through turn 2 as the V-carb half spins, and Raven up to P4, Alex up to P6, White Josh down in P7. as Ivy and Callum there going side by side out of turn 2. Always the Alpine gets a bit on the curbing there as Callum and Morleader advance through there as well. Ivy dropping down 2 positions, and Raven also through on Bubbly, and Raven now is on the podium positions. Again, Raven up there as well. Always that is a White Josh there in the wall, breaking his wing, and that is him down many positions, down to P13 here, and maybe even dead last as Saban goes through as well into P13. Gets right on board with Morleader as Bass Destroyer goes through, and I think Morleader is going to try and benefit off this as well, but he backs out. Oh, as that is Bass Destroyer being spun there by Callum, as a load more drivers go into the pits there. I think that was maybe a bit of just miscommunication there from Callum, as he was wanting to go into the pits, and I think Bass Destroyer was wanting to stay out, and due to that, Bass Destroyer was spun. Callum, Brian, Morleader, and White Josh, and I think Callum has actually got 6. Am I right? Yeah, Morleader's got 9. And look at that, THALO down the inside, out of turn 9, and Callum already, THALO, sorry, gets up into P5 as CGM starts to suffer a bit of tyre wear. Always Bass Destroyer in the wall, and he was in the wall on the second time of asking, facing the wrong way, and he has to spin around the right way by those drivers. Always we see Brian Evans go down the inside of 1 and 2 drivers there as Brian Evans gets up into a net P3. Sorry, no, that is actually P4 on track, as we see CGM go very wide there, as that allows Deck and Alex to go through. Can Alex get the overtake on Deck though? Going into the next chicane, around the outside, has the inside for the next corner, and it's still going to remain side by side into the next chicane of turn 6 and 7. Alex down the inside and will get into P6 there. A great move from Alex, and he will be in a net P1 if he chooses the 1 stop, but Deck is still lurking in the shadows right behind him. But one person that I know that was, that is in the top is here, Alex, going down the inside of Brian Evans. Brian Evans goes a bit deep into turn 7. And Alex gets into P5 there. And now Deck trying to make a move around the outside, going into the next chicane, as he almost nearly goes off the track there. But Brian Evans manages to keep that space, or keep that move. And Deck keeps it legal. No, he doesn't. He elects to stay behind, as Raven actually does go in already, as he almost goes sideways into the pits there. Luckily, the game resets him into the pit lane. But that was a bit too heavy on the brakes there for Raven. That could have been very race ending if he had gone into that inside barrier. Raven though, will he pull to the inside? Don't go for that, Raven, and he smartly does back out, and he will try and get it going into turn 1, and he does get a good exit and pulling in the slipstream. Raven now pulling to the inside, will get down the inside of the Alpine. The Alpine still tries to find a wheel there in a front wing, but Raven makes that move into P9. And Brian Evans, always there's a bit of contact, and Callum is into the wall there. I actually don't really know what happened, but he goes into the pits. From what it looked like, there was a bit of contact with him and Jaipo, and I think Callum just somehow got out of shapes on a straight and goes into the wall, and he will come in, and hopefully the game repairs his front wing, which it does. Always that's Ivy into the wall. What happened to Ivy? I mean, Bubbly was behind them. Maybe there was a bit of contact, but Bubbly doesn't have any damage, so I'm not too sure, but there's Ivy in a wall. Brian Evans there gets through on White Josh. Still not fully cleared though before turn 1, but eventually has to get cleared before turn 2. I think White Josh maybe just backed out of that one. Raven now pulling to the outside, doesn't even need the braking points, and he flies by up to P3 for Raven into the podium points paying positions, as he gets a 3-second time penalty over the curbs, and that might have just prevented his chances here from a podium unless he can pull a 3-second gap to Jaipo. But I'll tell you what, he is looking quick already, pulling out a second already. And there's only a few seconds between himself and Deck, and he is looking quick. THALO and Bubbly there going side by side as THALO gets the move up into P6. And THALO now could be on the charge here late on in the session. The drivers, as there's a yellow flag there. Bass Destroyer gets a 3-second time penalty, so 3 drivers now remaining without penalties. As THALO now picks up a penalty. I was about to say 3 drivers, but now it's 2. And has that just thrown THALO's chances away for getting a podium here? Raven picks up another 3-second time penalty. So now THALO will get that position off him if he just stays behind. Still 2 drivers waiting to receive penalties, which is Deck and Bubbly. But Bubbly 4.2 seconds behind. And I think Callum also... No, it wasn't Callum. Someone else got a track limit penalty, but I don't know who it was. And now Callum gets 21 seconds worth of penalties. There's THALO there gets up into P3, gets it on track anyway. It'll be great to see, but unfortunately I don't think it's going to happen. As THALO sends it down the inside of Deck there and gets into P2 on track. He needs to do something with that 3-second time penalty. If THALO maybe send one down the inside like he did to Deck just a lap ago. No, he doesn't. But now there is only one straight for Alex to hold on. We'll run on board with THALO. Alex getting a snap, so does THALO. THALO will have everything, but Alex is going to burn absolutely everything. THALO, is he closing in? Is he closing in? Can he make a final send? Alex moving to the inside. THALO to the outside. Alex still there on the inside, side by side into this corner. THALO is forced off as he might be able to get that, but was that a slight push to pass? Alex, I don't think he's going to get it, but THALO gets a 20-second penalty for cutting the corner and gaining a place. I don't know if that will get removed, but Deck will take the win, as it was going to anyway, as Bubbly takes P2. Still a P3 for Alex there. Decent race for him, as Raven takes P4 there. Jaipo Jippy will take P5, with THALO ending in P6 there. Saban in P7, but you know, with THALO, could he get that 20-second removed? Was it a bit of a, you know, force off the track there from Alex? Brian Evans P8, Callum will go down to P10, probably even further with his penalties, as he actually retired. No, that's Brian Evans who retires actually. So CGM goes up to P8. I think Callum remains in P9. Morleader will take P11 for basically not being in the section for almost half of it. And White Josh will finish in P12, with Bath Destroyer already finishing the race in P13.